You can walk 3 miles every single day and still lose the ability to stand up from a low chair without using your arms. Today we are breaking down the exact zero-impact movements you can do flat on your back that rebuild independent mobility faster than standard cardio. We will explore the single most counterintuitive moment when your legs actually get stronger. Have you noticed your legs hesitating or feeling heavy when getting out of bed, even on days you stay actively moving? It turns out that relying entirely on your daily neighborhood stroll to maintain leg strength is a fundamental physiological mistake that accelerates aging. Most older adults firmly believe that simply putting one foot in front of the other is enough to preserve their independence and keep their joints entirely healthy. In reality, a massive 2021 study published in the Journal of Aging Research demonstrated that walking on flat ground only utilizes about 15% of your maximum quadriceps capacity. Because your muscles adapt strictly to the exact physical demand placed on them, flat ground cardio trains your body beautifully for endurance but allows your explosive lifting strength to quietly waste away over the years. You keep your cardiovascular stamina relatively high, but the raw mechanical power required to push your own body weight upward completely disappears without you even realizing it. This structural deficit forces your fragile joints to absorb the intense daily shock that your weakened muscles can no longer handle properly. Walking only maintains what you already have left. If you genuinely want to protect your knees and hips from progressive deterioration, you must rebuild the surrounding tissue directly from the ground up. Shift your daily focus strictly away from arbitrary step counts and start incorporating isolated movements that force your muscles to contract deeply without relying on forward momentum. The biological truth about rebuilding lost muscle tissue completely changes when you intentionally remove gravity from the training equation. When you stand up, your body naturally uses skeletal alignment and joint locking mechanisms to support your physical weight, which immediately allows your leg muscles to take a rest. By lying completely flat in your bed, you eliminate that skeletal shortcut entirely and force the muscle to do all of the heavy lifting. The Journal of Geriatric Physical Therapy published a groundbreaking clinical trial in 2019 showing that zero-weight isolation exercises performed in a supine position recruited 20% more deep muscle fibers than equivalent standing movements. Without your entire body weight bearing down aggressively on your spine, your nervous system stops guarding your lower joints against potential falls. This sudden lack of gravitational stress signals your brain that it is perfectly safe to contract those large muscles fully. The resulting muscle activation is significantly purer and much more neurologically intense than anything you achieve while upright. Gravity hides your weakness, but isolation exposes it. Your muscles are finally forced to manage the actual mechanical work instead of constantly relying on the structural framing of your calcified bones. Dedicate a few minutes before you get out of bed each morning to deliberately activate these specific muscle groups while your spine remains entirely unloaded. Imagine trying to lift a heavy wooden box off the concrete floor using a severely frayed rope. That is exactly the type of mechanical stress your knee joint goes through every single time you attempt to stand up using weakened quadriceps. The seated knee extension directly repairs that frayed connection before you ever put a single pound of weight on the joint itself. You sit at the absolute edge of your mattress with your lower legs hanging freely toward the floor without touching it. You then slowly straighten one leg out in front of you until your knee locks completely flat and tight. The American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons requires this exact movement as the very first physical protocol after major knee reconstruction surgery for a very specific reason. Because your lower leg acts as a natural swinging pendulum, your thigh muscle has to manage that entire weight through the full active range of motion. This builds the armor that protects your fragile knee. As that frontal thigh muscle visibly thickens over several weeks, the kneecap tracks much smoother and grinds significantly less against the underlying sensitive cartilage. The sharp pain that previously shot through your joints during simple daily tasks starts to fade rapidly. Perform 2 sets of 10 extensions on each leg with a strict 3-second pause at the absolute top. I recently spoke with Sarah, a 72-year-old retired mathematics teacher who spent 6 miserable months struggling to stand up from her favorite living room armchair. She constantly pushed off the padded armrests, entirely convinced that her knees were just permanently wearing out from old age and past arthritis. After just 3 weeks of dedicated seated knee extensions in her bedroom, she stood up smoothly without using her hands even once. When you strengthen the quadriceps in absolute zero-weight isolation, you permanently eliminate the desperate upper body arm push. Specialized research from the University of Florida in 2022 tracked older adults performing daily extensions and found a staggering 40% increase in pure sit-to-stand velocity within just 8 short weeks. The massive muscles on the front of your thighs act as the primary biological engines that elevate your heavy center of mass directly against gravity. When those specific engines misfire, your upper body desperately tries to compensate for the sudden loss of lower power. Rebuilding the targeted frontal strength restores the vertical thrust you need to confidently navigate low car seats, deep living room sofas, and standard household toilets. Your arms should never do your legs' job. The sudden and noticeable return of lower body power completely changes how securely you interact with your physical environment every single day. Hold the top of every single knee extension hard enough to feel the muscle physically burning just above the kneecap. Why do so many highly active older adults suddenly experience their knees violently buckling right out from under them without warning? The surprising answer hides directly on the back of your legs in a critical muscle group you cannot easily see in the bathroom mirror. The prone hamstring curl directly addresses this hidden structural vulnerability before it causes a catastrophic fall. You lie face down completely flat on your mattress with your legs totally straight, then slowly pull your heel backward toward your glutes. A highly comprehensive 2020 study from the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity linked significant hamstring deterioration to a massive 28% increase in sudden knee buckling incidence among healthy seniors. Your hamstrings function as the essential biological braking system for your entire body when you walk down a mild slope or navigate uneven city pavement. When they weaken, your knee joint entirely loses its crucial posterior anchor and simply gives out without any neurological warning. Weak hamstrings are a guaranteed trip to the floor. Strengthening the back of the leg physically pulls the delicate joint tight, directly preventing that terrifying and sudden sensation of collapse when you unexpectedly shift your balance. You instantly feel significantly more planted and physically secure during every single walking footstep. Keep your hips firmly glued down to the mattress while actively pulling your heel backward to force the isolated hamstring to do all the work. Compare a severely neglected hamstring to a thick rubber band that has been left sitting in the hot baking sun for a decade. It might still stretch slightly when pulled, but it entirely lacks the elastic tension necessary to snap back and hold the underlying structures firmly together. The front of your leg might be perfectly strong from years of walking, but that dangerous muscular imbalance literally pulls your knee out of proper joint alignment. A landmark clinical trial published by the renowned Mayo Clinic in 2018 proved that adults over 70 who actively isolated their hamstrings reduced their forward tripping risk by 33%. Ignoring the back of your leg creates a dangerous structural tug-of-war that the weaker posterior muscle will always inevitably lose. The prone curl restores that critical front-to-back balance, effectively locking the joint securely in place from both opposing sides simultaneously. When the joint is heavily stabilized bilaterally, the surrounding sensitive ligaments stop taking unnecessary inflammatory damage during your regular daily routine. Balance requires equal strength on both sides. You will notice an immediate and surprising reduction in the amount of concerning creaking and popping you usually hear when carefully walking down a flight of wooden stairs. Take a full 4 seconds to slowly lower your heavy foot back down to the mattress during every single curl repetition. This specific front-to-back muscle balance is exactly what keeps you out of the hospital as you age. If you want to keep rebuilding your physical independence and discover more ways to protect your joints, make sure you hit the subscribe button and like this video right now. The next exercise targets sideways falls. The absolute easiest exercise on this entire list is mathematically proven to prevent the absolute most dangerous type of fall you can possibly experience. The pillow squeeze requires virtually zero visible movement from the outside but generates massive internal pelvic stability deep inside your core. You lie flat on your back, place a thick folded pillow firmly between your bent knees, and violently crush it inward. Elite researchers at the University of Pittsburgh published clinical findings in 2019 showing that adductor muscle weakness is the primary leading physiological cause of lateral hip fractures in the elderly population. Your inner thigh muscles exist specifically and exclusively to prevent your heavy legs from suddenly splaying outward when you lose your lateral balance. Traditional forward walking entirely ignores these crucial lateral stabilizers because walking happens exclusively in a straightforward linear path. When you actively compress that soft pillow, you forcefully wake up the dormant muscles that lock your pelvis securely and permanently to your upper femur. This invisible movement builds an unbreakable hip connection. This firm internal connection prevents your body from swaying wildly side to side when you quickly transition your weight from one foot to the other on dangerously uneven surfaces. You will instantly feel vastly less wobbly when standing up in a moving public bus or turning around quickly in your kitchen. Hold the deep inner thigh squeeze for 5 full seconds before ever letting the muscular tension release. Every single time you take a quick step sideways to avoid tripping over the family dog or reach high for a kitchen cabinet, you rely entirely on your neglected adductor muscles. The 5-second static hold is the absolute secret mechanism that makes the humble pillow squeeze so incredibly effective for older adults. When you squeeze and release the pillow way too quickly, you only manage to train the superficial outer layers of the muscle fiber. A comprehensive 2021 biomechanical analysis in the Journal of Orthopedic and Sports Physical Therapy heavily confirmed that sustaining tension for a minimum of 5 seconds increases deep hip stabilizer activation by 27%. The sustained inner pressure temporarily cuts off the local blood flow, which triggers a powerful metabolic response that forces the muscle tissue to adapt and grow stronger extremely quickly. Short, rapid, and bouncy pulses simply do not create nearly enough physiological stress to fundamentally change the weakened architecture of your inner thigh. Time under tension is what changes your body. That renewed and powerful inner thigh strength directly translates to a dramatically wider base of physical support and an unshakable feeling of physical confidence when navigating densely crowded rooms. Squeeze the pillow hard enough that you can actually feel the deep muscles vibrating slightly near your groin area. Picture a massively heavy solid wooden door hanging dangerously on just a single heavily rusted metal hinge. That is essentially how your fragile lower back operates when your massive glute muscles decide to stop working entirely. The prone leg lift specifically and ruthlessly targets the largest, strongest, and most utterly neglected muscle group in your entire aging body. You lie face down, squeeze your backside intensely, and elevate one perfectly straight leg just a few short inches off the soft mattress. The Journal of the American Geriatrics Society published a massive observational study in 2023 revealing that severe glute weakness was present in a staggering 73% of seniors who suffered a recent traumatic fall. Your glutes are literally structurally designed to push your heavy torso upward and keep your wide pelvis completely level with every single forward stride. Sitting deeply in plush chairs all day long actively switches these powerful muscles completely off, creating a severe and dangerous neuromuscular disconnect. Your backside is the true engine of independence. When you successfully wake these large muscles back up, they instantly take the crushing compressive pressure completely off your fragile lumbar spine. You will immediately notice that standing up completely straight no longer causes that familiar agonizing pinch right in your lower back. Squeeze your glute cheek tightly before you even attempt to lift your heavy foot off the bed. The incredibly persistent medical myth of age-related lower back pain is frequently just a simple and highly reversible case of profound gluteal amnesia. When your backside completely forgets how to fire properly, your delicate spine is forced to act violently like a steel crowbar to lever your heavy body upward. By performing consistent prone leg lifts, you actively retrain the correct firing sequence before gravity has a chance to completely ruin your spinal posture. A detailed 2022 clinical review from the Archives of Rehabilitation Medicine proved conclusively that restoring proper glute isolation improved walking stability scores by 32% over 10 short weeks. A remarkably weak backside forces you to lean heavily forward when you walk, which immediately shifts your entire center of gravity dangerously close to your toes. Rebuilding that posterior lifting power firmly anchors your heavy pelvis in a perfectly neutral position, allowing you to walk completely upright without exhausting effort. Strong glutes cure the permanent forward slouch. Lifting your chest up proudly and pulling your shoulders back suddenly feels completely natural instead of feeling like an exhausting and painful physical chore. You quickly reclaim the confident, towering upright posture that you used to have decades ago. Lift your leg no higher than 6 inches to strictly guarantee your lower back stays entirely out of the movement. Robert, an 80-year-old retired diesel mechanic, spent 2 highly frustrating years constantly tripping over the exact same edge of his own living room rug. His doctors lazily blamed his poor vision, but the actual hidden culprit was a massive loss of sensory awareness in his stiff ankles. Heel and toe raises completely and rapidly restore that vital nerve connection between your bare feet and your aging brain. You sit tall on the very edge of the bed, press your toes down forcefully to lift your heels high, and then fully reverse the entire motion. The Journal of Foot and Ankle Research published a highly detailed 2019 trial showing that this ridiculously simple routine improved ankle proprioception by 24% in just 6 weeks. Proprioception is your nervous system's magical ability to sense exactly where your joints are located in three-dimensional space without having to look down at them. Your brain needs to feel the floor clearly. When you fully restore that rapid sensory feedback loop, your foot automatically clears small household obstacles instead of dragging lazily and dangerously across the thick carpet. You instantly stop scuffing your expensive shoes and drastically reduce the sheer number of terrifying stumbles in your own home. Push your heels up smoothly, taking 3 full seconds to reach the absolute maximum height available. Why do your lower legs inevitably feel so swollen, incredibly tight, and massively heavy the very moment you step out of bed every single morning? The surprising answer involves the uniquely terrible way your body manages active blood flow while you are lying horizontally for 8 uninterrupted hours. Pumping your heels and toes violently activates the thick calf muscle, which directly acts as a powerful secondary heart for your lower half. A 2021 highly specific circulatory study from the European Journal of Applied Physiology demonstrated that full-range active ankle movements effectively flush pooled venous blood directly out of the lower extremities. Without this active muscular pumping action, heavy fluid simply stagnates around your delicate ankles, making your first few morning steps feel stiff and incredibly painful. By actively clearing out that stagnant inflammatory fluid before you ever stand up, you naturally lubricate the tendons and drastically reduce the sharp morning stiffness in your Achilles. This movement washes the stiffness out entirely. You will immediately and gratefully notice that your legs feel remarkably light and springy the instant your bare feet finally touch the cold bedroom floor. Perform 20 slow and deliberate repetitions in each direction before you even think about standing up for the day. Walking certainly keeps you moving forward, but these targeted zero-impact exercises actually rebuild the crucial mechanical foundation that makes walking possible in the first place. Do these exact movements daily to permanently secure your physical independence, and check out our next video on morning joint routines. Not professional advice, consult a qualified expert as needed.